המבדיל לקודש לחול, בין אור לחושך, בין ישראל לעמים.
Then Tisha Bav comes out on Sunday, then Sunday night after the fast. Mavdil alakos, you make Havdalah on a cup of wine, you say Borei Pri Hagafen, and a Mavdil ben Kodesh L'chol, like you would do after a weekday Yontif. And the question is why? Why do we make Havdalah on Sunday night? Reason number one, timing. When is the timing for Havdalah each week? So the Shulchan Aruch in Simon Reish Tzadik Tet Seif Vav brings three opinions. Opinion number one is that you can only make Havdalah until you didn't eat after Shabbos, but if you ate and you didn't make Havdalah, all bets are off, you forfeited the mitzvah. We usually don't paskin that way. The more two known points of view are point of view number one, that you can make Havdalah till Tuesday, based on a Gemara probably in Gittin, in which someone said, give a get to my wife, la'achar Shabbat, after Shabbos, and the Gemara says he means till Tuesday. And opinion number two is that you can only make Havdalah through Sunday. So plugging it in to Tisha Bav, opinion number one is the Ran, that since we paskin that Havdalah is only through Sunday, Yeshechal Tisha Bav and Motzei Shabbos and Mavdilin Klal, you missed it. So it's Sunday night is already Monday from our perspective. There's no Havdalah this year at all after Tisha Bav. He's not alone. The Rashba comes along and says in the name of the Ramban, his words, Shenitcha mi'ikaro, it totally vanished. You were supposed to make Havdalah Saturday night, Sunday. Now you can't. Nothing you can do. Devan de lo yachol Havdalah kasa b'sha'ato tu lo mavdil b'motzei Tisha Bav. From this perspective, opinion number one is that once Sunday passes, there's no Havdalah. Opinion number two, obviously, is going to paskin like the other point of view, and that is that you can make Havdalah till Tuesday. And this is the way the Tosfos actually paskins. He says, "V'halacha demavdila d'revi'i b'Shabbat, uveTisha Bav shechal liyot b'motzei Shabbat, nami rigilin la'avdila achar ha'tanit, v'chein b'seder derav Amram." Indeed, you make Havdalah until Tuesday. So Sunday night is a great time to make Havdalah. It's before Tuesday. You can make Havdalah then. And indeed, the Shulchan Aruch paskins like the Maharami Rutenberg that if you're an onain, you make Havdalah after the burial up until Tuesday. And not surprisingly, we started this podcast by saying you make Havdalah after the fast because it's before Tuesday. And indeed, the Taz explains that in the case of an onain, you're not making up what you didn't do Saturday night, but rather you're making Havdalah on time. Ikar zmana Havdalah matchila kach shimshoch zmana ad leil dalet Havdalah, the obligation of which goes on till Tuesday. There's two middle points of view. The Manhig says that you should make Havdalah Saturday night and give it to a kid who doesn't have to fast to drink. Now, we don't usually do that on Yom Kippur because we're worried that when he grows up and he has to fast on Yom Kippur, he'll think that you're allowed to drink. But in this case, the Manig wasn't worried about that, simply because he says not every year does Tisha B'Av come out on a Sunday. That opinion I haven't seen practiced. And the fourth opinion that basically says that the Bahag agrees that Havdalah is till Sunday. So Sunday night would have been too late. But he says, Kevante ifshar lavdil b'motzei Shabbos, since you have no choice in this case, you can't make Havdalah Saturday night or Sunday. You have to be somech on the point of view that says it's until Tuesday. So, to sum up, the first reason why we make Havdalah after the fast is because that is the timing. The timing goes till Tuesday. We're not making Havdalah late. We're making it on time. But there's a second way to explain it. And that is, why do we make Havdalah on a cup of wine? We already made Havdalah in davening by saying Atachon Antanu. Why don't we make Havdalah on a cup of wine when we get home? So, there's a fascinating Gemara in Masechet Pesachim that basically has a machloket. If you, on Saturday night, didn't make Havdalah, but you ate something, do you still make Havdalah or not? One point of view is yes, one point of view is not, and the Shulchan Aruch actually plugs them in. He basically says that Saturday night, you're not allowed to eat until you make Havdalah. But if you're in the middle of a meal, you can continue the meal, and when the meal is over, whenever it might be, 2 hours after Shabbos or whatnot, you make Havdalah then. And another point of view he brings is a Yesh Omrim that no, that's only up until it gets dark. But once it gets dark, Pores Mappa, put a tablecloth over the table, make Havdalah, and then continue the meal. Very interesting. What does food have to do with Havdalah? Comes along Rav Soloveitchik and explains, Kol kula shel Havdalah halakos ba biglal gmar seudat Shabbat. Havdalah is there on a cup of wine to say the eatings of Shabbos are over, the meals of the week are beginning. למשל, לשיטת בעל העיטור והסמ"ג, שמפסיקים להבדלה בחשיכה ודאית, צריכים אנו לתפיסת מפה, כלומר להפסיק סעודת שבת על ידי הבדלה, ולהתחיל בסעודת חול. In other words, Havdalah is there to say, my Shabbos meals are over, I'm now starting my weekday meals. From this perspective, now we understand a different reason why there's a machloket if we make Havdalah this year on Tisha B'Av. Comes along the Ramban, who says don't make Havdalah, and indeed says, if there's a prohibition upon you to eat after Shabbos, and therefore you can't make Havdalah, you can't drink the wine, you don't make Havdalah on Sunday night, Monday, when you're allowed to eat. Havdalah is there because you want to say the eatings of Shabbos are over, the eatings of the week are beginning. And since you're not going to eat Saturday night, there's no reason to make Havdalah. But on the other hand, those that say you do make Havdalah, and that's the way we paskin, say, as the Rosh says in the name of the Bahag, that once you're fasting, you can't do it. But once you're allowed to eat, like Sunday night, but the last time I ate was Shabbos, and those were Shabbos meals. Now it's a weekday meal. From this perspective, the second reason why we make Havdalah on Sunday night is going to be to make a statement. Until now, namely the last meal we ate was Shalosh Shudas on Shabbos, that was a Shabbos meal. Now we're about to eat the beginning of the weekday meals. In the words of Rav Soloveitchik, as quoted by Rabbi Eliakim Konensberg in a book he put out with the teachings of Rav Soloveitchik, that ultimately, according to the Ramban, since when Tisha Bav comes out on Sunday, it's not a day of eating, there's no reason to make Havdalah. The whole reason for Havdalah is to make a distinction between the meals of Shabbos to the meals of the week. And when Sunday is forbidden to eat, there's no reason to make Havdalah. But the Bahag that disagrees will say, Yom Sheni hu Yom Achila Arishon Shaboto Shavua, u'mishum hachi tzarich lavdil b'leil Yom Sheni. The first time you eat after a Shabbos meal, it could be with a 24-hour period in between them, that's when you make Havdalah. But there's a third reason, and it's brought by the Ramban. Once upon a moon, the Gemara says, they didn't make Havdalah on a cup of wine, they made it only in davening. It's only when the Jews got rich and they can afford wine, they made it on a cup of wine and not in davening. Then they got poor again, they made it only in davening. And this went back and forth until what we do today, we do both. Comes along the Ramban and says, we are all going to be very poor on Saturday night. We are going to be aniyim merudim, because at the time of Havdalah, we are going to be in Avelut, we are going to be in mourning for Tisha B'Av, and therefore you don't make Havdalah at such a time. The Meiri saw this. He said, it's mile dibdichuta ninhu. This is a joke, namely cute sermonics, but can't be. And he says, old, and if you want to say it's not sermonics, quite frankly, once Sunday night comes, it's the time of comfort already, and therefore we're back to being rich. So to sum up, the halacha is we do make Havdalah on Sunday night after Tisha B'Av. The question is why, and we brought three reasons. Reason number one, it's on time. You can make Havdalah till Tuesday, so Sunday night, Monday is still the time for Havdalah. Reason number two, you make Havdalah in order to make a distinction between the meals of Shabbos to the meals of the week. So the first time you can eat, that's when you make Havdalah. And the third reason is, we are very poor on Saturday night. We're going to be sitting on the floor. We are going to be in mourning. But once Sunday night comes, it's going to be the time of comfort. We're going to be rich again, and therefore that is the most appropriate and suitable time to make Havdalah.
Vazim nos koach Hashem